Okay, welcome to our new bike ride. It's still Cyclogeography, although it's a little bit locked down here in London. It's early January the 7th, 2022. We actually filmed a bike ride in Letchworth, Newtown, but we had some technical difficulties. So we're going to reshoot that in the spring when Letchworth looks nicer. And we'll do that. So this will be our next one. I am in Mead Street, Soho, and behind me is the building there. That is the building where the original comedy store began in 1979, not any of its later iterations. That was the place where British comedy changed forever. So we're on the corner of this narrow street, Mead Street, Soho, and it was a strip club and topless bar, a club called the Gargoyle, and the entrance was on the street behind me, and there was a lift which could only take 4 people, so 4 people could only get in at one time. These houses here were all brothels in 1979, and the women would hang out the windows trying to entice the middle classes of Stoke Newington and Hackney to sample their wares without much success. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to replicate my journey. First of all, because I used to travel to the comedy store by bike, so I'm going to replicate my journey. Obviously, this is my journey home, so we have to imagine that it's about 2 in the morning, and then secondly, I will do my journey to the comedy store, which would have been about 11 o'clock at night. I lived in a tower block in Fulham, Dawes Road, Fulham, and so that's where we're going now. Sígame, follow me. So I would go. So the comedy store would have wrapped. I think it was about 2 a.m. It started at midnight. It was £4 to get in. Actually, I usually used to go on longer than 2 hours. So maybe it was 3 or 4 a.m. It would always have been a wild and crazy night. Robin Williams might have turned up to do a spot, and certainly a load of crazy people. I'm going the wrong way here, but it's for the sake of art. The first decent performers to turn up at the comedy store were Keith Allen, Tony Allen, and then Nigel Planer and Peter Richardson, and then Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson. There was other performers, Andy Delator, Jim Barclay, and so on. So we would have been a wild night. I'd be drunk. Often Peter Richardson used to ride back with me, and we'd discuss the idea of having our own club. This is Shaftesbury Avenue, facing London's Chinatown. All right, I'm gonna go for it now. Still, life is not entirely restored to pre-lockdown levels by any means. You can see that the West End is fairly dull, fairly empty. Chinese New Year, by the way, on 1st of February, so Gong Hee Fat Choi. I'll get a chance to wish you that before we meet again. So this is the way I would go west. I think the road layout was slightly different, but this is essentially it. We're now approaching Piccadilly Circus. I say I would be drunk, I would be high on adrenaline as well. It would have been, a night when I felt like I was getting somewhere. Might have tried a new bit of material. Might have met a powerful producer who I thought was going to help my career, and probably didn't. As I've said before, the closest thing a human being can get to flying is to get past these. We used to call them Boris bikes, past those people on Ken Livingstone bikes. The site of the Comedy Store now is, I think, part of a building. I think it's Dean Street Townhouse, which is part of the Soho House Group, which seems to occupy most of Soho. Obviously, business of Soho when we started was various degrees of villainy. In 1979, various types of villainy, sex trade, and the movie business, editing suites and voiceover suites. And now with the rise of Soho House Group, it's mostly arseholes sitting around talking shit. I've been a while, I don't know if I've been. I haven't been down here since coronavirus. So, again, it's all a bit patchy, isn't it? There's an Itsu there, which is a better version of. I don't know if they have the. Do they have the conveyor belts? But they're a better version of Yo Sushi, and I think Yo Sushi is pretty shit. So. I was out. I think last night, and the only traffic was Deliveroo riders, people on the street. It's a weird kind of futuristic society. We just passing the Delaunay, not the Delaunay, the Wolsey, of course. I haven't been there for a while, but it's one of the it's the jewel in the crown of the Corbyn and King dining empire. Nice place though, and not overly expensive. Past the Ritz. Coming up to Green Park. Now the building's on the right, which is like now and then Marks and Spencer's and a bank. A lot of these buildings used to be car showrooms, and I think I've talked before about my friend, my tour manager Kenny Smith, who'd worked for the Beatles, and he was friends with a guy called Terry Doran, one of this tall kind of gay Liverpool guys who was a bit like Paul O'Grady kind of type, and he worked in this, what I knew, he worked in the Saab showroom which was there, and he was the man meeting a man in the motor trade, and that was Terry Doran. He was the origin of that phrase from the song She's Leaving Home. Now when I used to cycle home drunk at whenever it was, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, from the Comedy Store, I used to go cycle down the underpass there. Now at the age of 70, I'm fucked if I'm doing that. In fact, is there a other than me? I think I'm not going to do it anyway. I think there may be does that mark out a kind of bike lane. Those cones are perhaps there's a bike lane there. It is it is ridiculous that this roundabout has only either has to you either have to put yourself in the way of all this traffic or go down that underpass. It's a ludicrous piece of 1960s road design. I think we may have done this before. I think what you have to do now is go to the next junction, wait for the lights to change, and then go across, which is kind of shit really. As I used to go down that underpass. This is Hyde Park corner. That is, I think, the Wellington Monument. I think the statues on top of it are made from melted down guns of French troops, French army at Waterloo. Might have made that up. Head there is Hyde Park, and we're about to enter Knightsbridge. Okay, so you can only get as far as here on the green light. Now we can go down. There's a famous squat, one of those buildings there, in the 60s, I think. It was also just ahead of this red brick building. There was a branch of the Spaghetti House chain, and there was a siege there of robbers, I think, who got trapped. And I don't know the story, but I think it's actually the whole band was black. And in fact, there's a much more interesting story than this. Is tremendously uninformative. If anybody knows that the fucking state of this road is dreadful. This is Knightsbridge as well. This is the poshest, richest part of London. Ahead is I think number one Knightsbridge, which is developed by the Candy Brothers. It is the traffic here was screwed for years while they built it, and it's the most expensive building, I think, in London, full of flats owned by oligarchs and torturers and international drug dealers that remain empty for most of the year. But it's also extraordinarily banal building, breathtakingly shit. There you are, Harvey Nichols. Harvey Nichols was famous in a time when shops were important, before we got all the things we bought delivered to us by emaciated men in and beyond, below minimum wage, on electric bicycles. 2 cabs and a bus running the red light there. So we are. This would be me late at night on probably some shitty bike that I'd bought for 20 quid. Come on, fuck's sake. Heading home to Tower Block in Fulham. Dawes Road, Fulham. Ahead is Harrods department store. As I rode along late tonight, I might be reviewing the material, always thinking about what I was going to do next weekend, who I could slag off. So while since I've done one of these bike rides, I feel like I've reverted a bit, that I was more chatty and had more to say. Whereas now I'm more, how you say, inarticulate. Again, still many closed shops. Absence really of massive footfall. Brompton Oratory on the right there with Tony Blair, the evil motherfucker, sent his sent his kids. I see that as we speak, the petition to have his knighthood rescinded is just about up to 1 million signatures, but he really is the most. There's also riots in Kazakhstan, which are being put down violently by Russian troops, and when President of Kazakhstan was involved in an earlier massacre, Blair and that other fucking shitbag, Alistair Campbell, offered their services to burnish his image for a fee, of course, substantial fee. In a way, it's funny riding these streets because they've changed very little in some senses. The buildings are very much the same, the vibe is the same really. It's not one of those areas like Islington somewhere which has gone from working class slum to bohemian area to very expensive. There's always very expensive and really hasn't changed that much. It's kind of a novelty. Michelin building there. Yeah. And this was, I don't know whether this is still called Brompton Cross. This is used to be like a Joseph. This was a very kind of sprawnsy meeting point for rich people. This is Old Brompton Road. Probably be going, since I was, how old was I, 1979, 28, 29. Probably be going a lot faster. I'm 70 this year. I'll be 70 this year. So, energy levels somewhat reduced. I passed a house back there where I more or less killed one of Britain's greatest film directors, David Lean. I'll maybe tell that story on the way back. I like to keep something back, don't you? Coming up on the left here is the Royal Marsden Hospital, and I used to drink. Is there still I think it's a Mexican restaurant or something there. I used to just drink with my friend George Foster, and that was a pub. I don't remember what it was. It's called like the Red Rose. Just over there, and it wasn't really a very nice pub. I was complaining to George one night about the lack of atmosphere, and he pointed out that you'll never really get a great pub opposite a cancer hospital. Oh, it's called the Hunter's Moon now. Whether it's reverted to people. It's kind of, I don't know. That's the kind of people who go in there. But that was one of his rules of thumb, was that you never get a great pub opposite a cancer hospital. So there you go. There used to be a famous Jennifer Saunders and Adrian Edmondson used to live. I think they lived above, when they first got together, a butcher's shop just along here that was actually called Wainwright and Daughter. I think when they first got together, but I might have made all that up. Memory's a funny thing, isn't it? Memory's a funny thing, isn't it? Oh yeah. Well, a bunch of fucking gales. I hate. £3.30 for a flat white and Muswell Hill, and didn't have a handle on the cup. Oh, ladies SUV, lady. That's the St. Stephen's Hospital. It used to be very different. Me and Linda were walking home one night from somewhere, and I saw a bloke get punched in the face, and then his assailants ran off. So I went up to him and said, I saw those blokes punch you in the face, you alright? Do you want me to stick around? And he said, I said, well, it's Alexei Sayle. Can I have your autograph? Well, blood poured out of his nose. I was a lot bigger then, though. That's when I was on the telly. Happy memories, eh? Actually, just going along, I should have, by going along Fulham Road, I'm actually going too far south, and I have to cut. End up at Fulham Broadway, and I'll have to go back up Dawes Road. So this isn't exactly the same. Sometimes I might take this route, but this isn't normally the route I would have taken. Oh man with shorts there. Must be cold, it's fucking freezing. My friends Martin and Sandy used to live in that mansion block there. They were the first people I met who would buy a bottle of spirits and then wouldn't drink it that night. So they had like gin and vodka and stuff, like lying around. Amazing. That white entrance there, that used to be a club attached to Chelsea's football ground called Barbarella's. I never went in there, but I imagined it was the kind of place where Chelsea footballers would go in the 70s. We lived in this tower block from 1974 to 1984. We were rehoused by the council because they demolished our original home. It was a beautiful flat. I think somebody emails me from time to time telling me I think the block itself is being demolished. It's a 1960s block, system built block where all the panels just rested on top of each other, so if there was a gas explosion, as there was in Ronan Point, the whole corner of the building would collapse. So when you opened the cupboard, there was all these kind of girders and bolts and stuff holding the whole block of flats together. That, what was that called? No, that used to be straight ahead. That used to be a pub called the Cock, where did some early stand up to tremendous lack of enthusiasm. It looks nice down there. It looks like a social town or village. I don't know what that is. I wasn't there when I lived here. It doesn't take long to get here. It hasn't felt like it took long. Even though I've come a long way around. Fulham Broadway. Oh, fire engine. I always find it very moving when people get out the way of a fire engine or an ambulance. Seems to me the best of human nature, you know. I'm looking for crumbs here in this this world of kill or be killed. So I need to go. Oh, it's all different since my day, this. And if I do the return journey, it'll actually be a lot quicker because I'll go more. This is a stupid route. And this is the Dawes Road. We're very bleak when we lived there, and still doesn't feel that. I got a lot of my early material, both because it was a sort of, you started getting posh people kind of dislodged from Chelsea, moving to Fulham, so they dislodged the white working class who had lived there. So they themselves had moved out from the East End, either after the war or even earlier in the early part of the 20th century. But it was those people. The pub, the tower block, had this kind of pub built almost into the base of it. That was entirely, it was either Irish or Cockneys, and that's where I got my kind of, hello John, got a new motor stuff. Because they all these Cockneys were like, oh God blimey, you can't fucking got a new motor, John. All that. I think you could, if it was still there, you'd be able to see Lannoy Point above the buildings. I suspect it's gone. At Tesco's was a pub called the Shaftesbury. I remember walking past it one day and hearing a young woman singing. It's the most beautiful voice I'd ever heard. So I just kept walking, didn't go in. There was a Chinese that we used to go to. I remember the first time we ordered soup and Linda couldn't figure out how we were going to, as a takeaway, how we were going to get it home. So she took a bowl. She hadn't figured in containers. Actually, there are a lot of stories. I haven't told you many stories. So here we are. This is where my home was and is now no longer. There's the Bedford pub where I used to drink, and that is the building site where I used to live when I changed British comedy in 1979. That was a very it was all very Cockney, kind of patriotic in there. And I remember on when Prince Charles, because he was in the paratroopers or something, or maybe some paratroopers lived there. Anyway, on the night of Prince Charles's marriage to Princess Diana, a piece of graffiti was, I think, written on that wall that said, "Good luck on your night jump, Charlie." So this is where I used to live, Lannoy Point, which is no longer here, like my youth.